Disney live action.
Oh great, here we go again.
Confound those live action remakes, they irk me so.
The poetics are new.
Well, I've run out of standard hate commentary for them. I have to do something.
Can't we just complain that they can't call the upcoming Bambi remake live action and call it a day?
No, because they'll do that anyway. Just like The Little Mermaid, which takes place mostly underwater.
You don't like any Disney movies, do you?
That is entirely not true. There are 5 good Disney movies.
Okay, but isn't this just one of your regular complaining fits, or do you actually have a plan for the 10-year anniversary?
Wait, it's been 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay. I totally have a plan.
Should I be worried?
Probably. Hello, my name is Hunter, the movie reviewing horse, because when it comes to cinema, humans cannot be trusted. And if the last 10 years have proved anything, it's proven that I'm right. 10 years. It's hard to believe I've been doing this that long. Between The Dog Who Saved Christmas and the Slender Man review, you can quite literally say, I've seen some shit. Ghost Dog: A Detective Tale is still one of the stupidest movies ever made. Fred the Movie is still one of the stupidest movies ever made. The Amazing Bulk is the worst movie I have ever seen. I've watched the Playmobil movie fall flat on its face. I've watched the Sonic Cinematic Universe redeem itself. I watched an excessive number of Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes and then told you all to go watch Mystery Science Theater 3000. The Food Fight review? I'm still getting comments about the French national anthem. Titanic 2 is literally the highest viewed video on this channel, and Titanic 666, that video is destined to surpass it, guys. Come on, go watch it. And I will review Britannic when I am good and ready. We practically become an animation studio anytime we try to do something with Star Wars. Revenge of the Mouse will come out once we figure out whether or not Mickey is going into the public domain, by the way.
Wait, who said I was going into public domain?
Animation is a tricky business. The oldest one I can find dates all the way back to 1907, so it's been around a while, but it has changed a lot. Mostly, everyone's taken after Pixar and gone over to 3D animation. But there was a time when 2D and 3D met in glorious unison back in the early 2000s.
Guys, are we seriously not going to talk about that public domain thing?
So if this review isn't about Disney live action, then why did you bring it up?
Because some movies would work really good in live action. Like 2002's Treasure Planet. An interesting movie, to say the least, no matter how you look at it. 20 years ago to the day. One trailer popped up online for this in 2002, right around spring, but YouTube didn't exist back then, so you can imagine how well that went. Yeah, this was an era where we got our movie trailers right before all of the other movies that we were watching. That, or we saw the commercials. I forget exactly what I went to see when I saw the trailer for this. Wikipedia only lists Spider-Man and Star Wars Episode 2, but I didn't see either of those in theaters, so I don't know what I was seeing. This was also back when marketing campaigns knew what fun actually was. It wasn't just release a trailer and talk about the movie a bunch. No, McDonald's had toys for this. One of the really cool ones, too, where you had to, like, collect all of them and you could build the orb from this movie. But you had to keep going to McDonald's, so it was, yeah, not exactly healthy. We all saw Super Size Me. But we went anyway, because along with the toys, there was also a series of games that they released for this. Like, at McDonald's. Right? There were like 3 of them. And all three of them came with a demo for this even bigger game that they were also making, and then there was also a PS2. There were like 5 games for this. Oh my god. On top of all of this, this movie was released in IMAX. It was one of the first movies to do regular theaters and IMAX at the same time. And back then, this was when we were still looking at IMAX like, whoa, what is this? The future? John Musker and Ron Clements were co-directing this movie, so, like, very high expectations from those two. Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Mouse Detective. Later would go on to do Moana. And an all-star cast featuring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Brian Murray, David Hyde Pierce, Emma Thompson, just to name a few. This was big. This was really, really big at the time. For some of the people watching this, I just blew your minds. You're sitting there thinking, if it was so big, why have I never heard of this movie? Well, because it bombed. Treasure Planet managed to lose Disney $30 million. Against its $140 million budget, it only raked in about $110 million, which is a crying shame, a crime against humanity. My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined. How could this happen? What happened? Why did this movie lose so much money? It's believed that one of the higher-ups in Disney had issues with one of our film directors and intentionally sabotaged his own film so that it wouldn't do well. Now, these are just rumors, so take it with a grain of salt, but there's a fair bit of evidence to back this theory up. There's a video by Breadsword. It's 34 minutes long. I'll link it down below, and he goes way more into detail on this. I don't know who did this. I personally didn't watch the video, but fire that man. If you have not fired him already. For all I know, it could have been Chapek, recently ousted Disney CEO. Whoever it was, get rid of him, because he sabotaged a masterpiece. At the beginning of this video, I said that Disney has 5 good movies, and this is one of them. The visual style is incredible, even for its time. The setting is nothing short of awe-inspiring. The music is literally one of my favorite cinematic soundtracks. Remember when I said my music tastes range between orchestral and beautiful or bombastic and crazy? This is what spawned the orchestral side of that. Unlike a lot of people who this kind of flew over everybody's head, this movie was actually a really heavy part of my childhood. I am proud to say I grew up with this movie, and to revisit it after all these years is nothing short of tremendous. And you know what? My opinion hasn't changed. I still love it. I'm gonna be honest, guys, I didn't even watch Treasure Island. This was better. It was just so different and out there. This had wooden ships flying through space. Like, what is that? That's insane. What is this? It's a cat girl? This is where some of us discovered cat girls. And putting a solar sail on a surfboard and making it fly through the air is just a friggin' awesome idea. Even down to its visuals, Treasure Planet dared to be different, taking advantage of what I like to call hybrid animation. I mentioned earlier there was a time when 2D and 3D animation met in glorious unison, and this was one of those times. They'll combine these 2D characters with 3D environments, or they'll combine 3D characters with 2D environments, or maybe they'll just combine 2D, 3D characters. And nothing emphasizes this more than John Silver in this movie, who is literally a 2D, 3D character. All of his robotic components are in 3D. But he himself is 2D, making him a crazy amalgamation of not just man and machine, but also 2D and 3D animation. And the developers use this to its full potential. You'll see him lumbering around, but his arm, oh, it's so slick and smooth. It's like a Swiss Army knife. They're like, why should it just be a robotic arm? It should be able to do all of these things. He could put a sword on it. It can turn into a gun. He can reach into his robotic leg and pull out a cannon. And the animators, they make it look so easy. They said to design this character, they took Captain Hook from Peter Pan and replaced his arm with a cyborg arm, which honestly sounds really awesome. I kind of want to see that. They took what's called deep canvas technology and combined it with a process they call virtual sets, where they create an entire 360-degree set before they begin staging the scenes. An animation process that is expensive as all get out. But they had to do it this way because Musker and Clements wanted to be able to move the camera around a lot like Steven Spielberg or James Cameron. At a few points, they wanted it to be almost like a handheld camera. This took years. They pitched this movie originally in 1985, but they went with The Little Mermaid. They pitched it again in 1989, but then they went with Aladdin. In the end, this movie was in development for 10 years. But in the end, this actually ended up being a good thing because 3D technology needed time to catch up. Yeah. Sound familiar? In the end, it was Roy Disney, the most famous of the Disney brothers, who finally backed the film. Because they gave you The Little Mermaid and Aladdin, two of your highest grossing films of all time. Seriously, Aladdin made an insane amount of money, guys. On top of these fantastic visuals, we also got one of the greatest movie soundtracks ever made to back it up. James Newton Howard, who has a very, very big track record, delivered one of the greatest soundtracks he had ever made that did not win an Oscar. Or any award, for that matter. Originally, Alvin Silvestri was supposed to do it, but I can't find a reason why he was replaced. Maybe it's the fact that his music just wasn't good enough for this film. Even though he's won awards too. I'm not trying to jab at him. I'm just heavily biased towards the big orchestral stuff. Which, like I said earlier, this is the movie that implanted that stuff in my brain, and there it has stayed rent-free for the past 20 years. This stuff makes anything in the movie look epic when those trumpets and horns come in like... It's glorious. Absolutely glorious. And then I got this flute right at the end. That's my favorite part with the flute. The soundtrack for this movie comes in, pulls no punches, and hits you like a heavy laser cannon ball right to the eardrums. How this soundtrack ended up walking away without getting any awards is beyond me. The composers for this film said that they were going for 70% traditional and 30% sci-fi, which is just perfect. That is the perfect tone for this entire movie. Two notable exceptions within this soundtrack are two songs from B.B. Mac, Always Know Where You Are and I'm Still Here, which 30 minutes into the movie they practically give us a music video for. This is an absolutely fantastic song that they use for their montage and their big flashback scene. They were proud of this music, and it's on full display here. I love this shit. And it doesn't stop there either. Every time he gets on a solar surfboard, this guitar riff starts coming in, and we have to stop talking about the soundtrack now because it's starting to get a little too good. Our all-star cast is here as well. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is here voicing Jim Hawkins, and he does an absolutely fantastic job. Brian Murray as John Silver. Or
so help me, I'll use the ship's cannons to blast you all to Kingdom Come!
Absolutely fantastic voice, which is a shame because I don't know anything else that he's in other than this. He did, however, voice Silver in both of the tie-in video games, which is just absolutely fantastic. I love it when they do that. I, for one, will never forget your contribution, Mr. Brian Murray, and may you rest in peace. David Hyde Pierce is in this, voicing Dr. Doppler. He's a lovable idiot. Emma Thompson, oh my lord, she gives a absolutely smug, fantastical performance in this movie.
Mr. Arrow, I've checked this miserable ship from stem to stern, and as usual, it's spot on. Can you get nothing wrong? They're... how did I describe them, Arrow? I said something rather good this morning before coffee.
A ludicrous parcel of drivelling galoots, ma'am.
There you go. Poetry.
And you got Ben, voiced by Martin Short, the idiot to back up our lovable idiot. You got Michael Wincott voicing Scroop, which this guy's voice is just...
Cabin boys should learn to mind their own business.
Oh, it's deliciously evil. And the way all these characters come together is nothing short of absolutely fantastic. The way John Silver comes into Jim's life and just fills this father role that he never really had his whole life is just nothing short of heartwarming. By the end of the movie, it's enough to not just bring tears to their eyes, but enough to bring tears to the audience's eyes. It's actually one of those very rare stories where the hero and the villain end up saving each other.
You're something special, Jim. You're going to rattle the stars, you are.
Through this whole movie, we find out that John Silver has had this lifelong obsession with finding Flint's Trove, the loot of 1,000 worlds, and it gets ripped away from him, and then there's this big scene where he has to choose between what's left or saving Jim, this kid that he unintentionally became the mentor of. And in the end, he saves Jim. And when all is said and done, he has the decency to shrug it off and joke about it.
Silver, you gave up?
Just a lifelong obsession, Jim. I'll get over it.
Everyone else is pretty good, even though we don't have a lot when it comes to everyone else. But that's one of the advantages of Treasure Planet, is that it does have a small cast. Even in terms of side characters, there's only maybe about max 25 people on this ship. But Doppler and Amelia are still great together. I love these two. They're a couple of wackadoodle peas in a wackadoodle pod.
Did you actually aim for that?
You know, actually, I did.
You'd think that these two wouldn't work. He's the comic relief, and she's this straight-laced, serious business type. But they do work together. And of course there's Morph, which everybody likes Morph. Probably our most humorous cast member. He's basically like a parrot, almost. And it goes to show you, even though this movie has a sense of humor, the story can get pretty heavy at times. Jim came onto the ship with a ton of emotional baggage and has to deal with a lot of stuff. We can only imagine the horrible ordeals that Silver had to go through in order to get all of his robotic parts. And a lot of people die in this movie, actually. Like, you wouldn't expect that out of a Disney movie, but it's like, oh, those guys are definitely dead. Okay, that is a long fall. Oh, okay, yeah, all right, he's dead. All right, this guy literally falls into a black hole. That's like some crazy 1 in a billion bullshit. When's the last time someone died in a black hole? Or fell down a really deep pit into some lava, for that matter. These guys are definitely dead, by the way. Like, good lord, how violent is this movie? Everybody has a gun. You wouldn't expect this from Disney. I mean, it's Disney. You'd expect someone to die. Normally, it's towards the beginning of the movie. Like this guy. This guy died too. The story for this pulls no punches and takes a simple concept like a treasure hunt and cranks it up to 11. That's a storyline that should actually be pretty low stakes, but it feels really, really huge in this movie. You remember when we reviewed Uncharted? And they're dragging the ships through the air with the helicopters? This is just like that. Except definitely not, because, you know, the ships actually fly in this. Because the setting for this movie is one of the most kick-ass settings you could ever have for a movie. The Treasure Planet universe is just so different that I can't take points away from it for being scientifically inaccurate when your ships are made of wood and they look like old sailing ships and you can breathe in space and we're surrounded by all of these aliens. Seriously, of the entire crew of the Legacy, Jim is the only human. You have all these different alien races. It's insane. I love this shit. But this is where Treasure Planet starts getting frustrating. There's another scene in this movie where they find the portal and he's opening and closing it to different places all around the galaxy. And you can't help but be like, oh, what's that? What's that place? What is that there? What's that thing? I want to know more. This is a universe that I want to explore. I want to read books of this. Treasure Planet barely scratches the surface of its own setting. We've only seen what's come to us in this movie. And you just want to fly out there and see all of it. Because it is so vast, it is so huge, it's set up that way. But that was ripped away from us when the movie didn't make its money back. There was going to be a franchise for this. And maybe one day we would have seen it all. Maybe even find Jim's deadbeat father somewhere in a bar somewhere. There are only 455 fanfics for this on fanfiction.net. And that still doesn't feel like enough, because you could just do so much with this universe. And that's a fact. Another fact is that this movie is framed perfectly with the absolutely godlike cinematography all throughout this movie. Yes, cinematography in a quote-unquote cartoon. Everything here is perfectly framed. You can get a just absolutely fantastic appreciation for the scale of things. You can actually see people running around on the boat during some of these shots, really appreciate like how big the boat is. One of the greatest shots in all of cinematic history is a shot towards the beginning of the movie where they're on the planet Montresor and they zoom into what looks like a crescent moon from the surface, and it's a giant space station. And this thing actually legitimately looks enormous. This is the shot where, like, up until now, we've only been on this kind of gray-brown planet, and this is the shot that pulls you into this universe. The entire budget is on display here. This is definitely the most expensive shot of the movie. And going back to what I said about this universe being enormous, it's all on display here. This is my favorite scene in any movie ever created by mankind, and it just goes to show, if Disney is this good at creating, like, a universe, why have they sucked so bad with Star Wars? I could just talk about this movie for hours. I haven't even talked about their insane attention to detail, which is awesome, by the way. Like, if I had time, I would just do a full review of this movie, like a Hunter review special or something, but Greg over there is glaring at me that we need to meet the November 27th deadline. And yes, that's a hard deadline. What's bad about this movie? Nothing, it's perfect. No, I'm kidding. Though it is pretty dang close to perfect. I suppose Ben is annoying, but he gets his shit together at the end of the movie. Like, literally, that's his character arc, is he has to get his shit together. You don't really see that very often. I suppose Morph is kind of annoying, but Morph is not really a person. He's more like a pet.
And I mean that in a very caring way.
I suppose for the first half of the movie, Doppler is kind of annoying, but he's not really there for the first half of the movie. And when things actually start, moving, he buckles down and gets to business. Like, he actually gets his shit together pretty quickly.
Dang it, Jim, I'm an astronomer, not a doctor. I mean, I am a doctor, but I'm not that kind of doctor. I have a doctorate. It's not the same thing. You can't help people with a doctorate. You just sit there and you're useless.
And he knows his place as the comic relief, which is good. The only thing that doesn't work too good in this movie is the flow. Treasure Planet opens up on a thunderous note, lulls down for 3 seconds, and then goes right back to the thunder, and then lulls down again for a good long while. But then you start to realize that this is kind of a quiet story that is occasionally interrupted by big bouts of heavy stuff. In the end, that's not really a bad thing either. Children need these pauses from the action. They need breaks. It teaches them patience. And maybe it's the nostalgia talking. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but none of that is really enough to bring this movie down. And it's about time somebody said as such. 7.2s on IMDb, be damned. 69% on Rotten Tomatoes, be damned. This film is a masterpiece. I don't give these out too often, because Hollywood is a world where there are more bad movies than good ones. But my final score on this one? A 9.9. The .1 is really there for this movie's protection. Anyone critical of this decision can find a way to cram their flaws in that .1. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm overlooking some things. But I don't care. I will die on this rock. This movie is in my head, and I have held it in such high regard for the past 20 years. It takes a heck of a lot for me to say Disney actually made a good movie, because I don't really like Disney. And for me to say that there are 5 good Disney movies, and to make this one of them, probably at the top of that list for that matter, that should tell you something. Because it is that good. I do hold it in that high of regard. This is one of my favorite movies ever. And the fact that we didn't get more of it is one of the all-time greatest wrongs in cinematic history. Something has to be done. A wrong has to be righted, because I can't help but feel that this was only the beginning of something fantastic that was snuffed out by Disney executives. And it's a movie I'm gonna show my kids one day. I'm gonna make them show their kids one day. Find this movie. It's on YouTube, available to rent. It's probably on Disney Plus, and it's worth every single penny. I only wish we got more. Except one notable exception. Remember when I mentioned those McDonald's games had a demo for something even bigger? This was it. Battle at Procyon is a naval combat game set in the Treasure Planet universe, and it's a canonical sequel to the movie. And like its movie counterpart, there is attention to detail everywhere. You got 3 factions you can sail as, including the Navy, pirates, the Procyons. You got an entire single-player campaign you can go through. You got a modding community, which is actually pretty active. You got a bunch of people who figured out how to get the multiplayer working. And you got, by some God-given miracle, the ability to buy it on Steam. If Hunter Reviews is what dominates this channel, Battle at Procyon is what dominates Headhunter Gaming. Seriously, it's the highest viewed video there. I printed out a comment from one of the developers and hung it on my wall in a frame. The game itself is normally $10, but right now it's on sale for 70% off. The fact alone that you can get it for that price is amazing, but also the fact that this game will now be preserved for all time so that everybody can play it. If you like this movie, you gotta play this game. Because I believe we all have a responsibility to preserve this movie and make sure that future generations see this movie. We can't let the 2D, 3D hybrid style die out.
Well, at least we'll never go out of style.
Heck yeah! We're irreplaceable! Before I give everyone just a big ol' case of the thank yous, I just want to remind everybody that the new merch store is now open. Head down via the link below. You can check out that other video on why Treasure Planet failed while you're down there shopping, too. It's the holiday season. Get yourself a hoodie or a mug. I had to actually ask for them to make those mugs, by the way. The folks at GroundMade have been super supportive and very, very helpful getting the new shop up and running. It's way better than the old shop. Definitely check it out via the link down below in the description. And of course, I would like to thank everyone, literally everyone, not just our patrons, Death 9000, Madison Woods, Dark Blue Fire, the F403, Gavin Domenico, Sexy One, Tribal Typhoon, and Julian Gushway. but everyone for sticking with Hunter Reviews these past 10 years. This isn't the only thing we're doing for the 10-year anniversary, and who knows, maybe for our 20-year anniversary and the 30-year anniversary of Treasure Planet, we'll do a full review. You know, when I'm wiser and I'm older. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us this long. We'll be back next month for one final review this year. Go watch Treasure Planet if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys soon.